Today, we are doing our first 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's jump right into this. If you see the board below my face, it is extremely limited to what I watched last year and some quarterbacks that I've started diving into this year. So please do not feel the need to comment about that. There is still so much to be learned and so much to edit. So for you guys to be able to see, let's start out with the number one overall pick. We're just following what PFF has for their mock draft sim. I love doing the graphics for y'all, but if you guys want to see, it's actually doing pretty well, but my dislocated finger is not really a huge fan of that. This can be a lot easier for us to have fun. Of course, if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. But New York sitting here at 1. Jackson Dart's their quarterback at the end of round 1. I don't think that stops us from going a quarterback here. And there's a lot of good options. You can look at Arch Manning. I'm going to, for the sake of this video, say that Arch Manning is going to stay in college. It's one of the few things that feels extremely probable, and I feel kind of cheap when I end up actually forcing Arch Manning into something that we kind of all agree he won't be in. But there is a quarterback that I think is on another level. You can talk about Garrett Nussmeier, and there's a lot of room to grow for a lot of these quarterbacks. I thought Cade was doing a great job, but he still needed to return. Same thing with Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier. Sam Levitt has some flashes. He still needs to grow quite a bit. But the one who I love the most is Lenoris Sellers. I think that this guy is an absolute superstar. He might be the highest graded quarterback I've ever graded when all is said and done. His initial eval is complete, and he is the highest quarterback I've graded, but there's still more games to watch, and then obviously as time progresses and seeing if he does as well. So we're going to go after Lenoris Sellers out of South Carolina, just so you guys get to see. He's 6'3", 242, super duper young, and he is just an absolute baller. I don't know why. There we go. I'm like, I don't know why the hell it was looking like that, but still, Lenoris Sellers is fantastic. I mean, the precision he throws with, the decisions he makes. I mean, the thing about him is that he can get a little bit arm arrogant sometimes. I think that's why he has his turnover-worthy plays. But his timing in the pocket about when to scramble, making guys look silly, even guys who will be taken in this draft, including TJ Parker and Peter Woods specifically. Like, he's just a difference-making quarterback. It's like Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson had a little bit of a baby, so to speak. Like, you combine them, make a genetic superhuman. That is Lenoris Sellers, and I did not think I was going to like him to this degree remotely, but I just kept being wowed by him every single time he ended up taking a snap. So Lenoris Sellers kicking Jackson Dart out of town, which is okay. I mean, it's okay to admit if you're at the number 1 pick, you're going to have a new organization in there. It's pretty safe to say if they think they have the best quarterback available, they're going to take it. And number 2 for the Cleveland Browns is another situation where, yeah, you have Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, you have Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, you have Kenny Pickett. You have a multitude of quarterbacks, as a matter of fact. However, I don't think that stops you from taking a quarterback here either. And, I mean, simply put, the Browns are too good. Similar to the Giants, the Browns are too good to not be successful. And I don't think they'll end up here at pick 2. Just FYI, I don't think that's going to be the case. But they are in this situation. And if you're sitting here, I think that the one thing the Browns do not have is a playmaker at quarterback. And you can debate whether that's Drew Aller or Garrett Nussmeier. Again, I'm not having Arch Manning come out in this. That's just not how I'm going to play this game, because it seems so obvious that he's going to return and go for the full tenure of him in college rather than starting just for 1 year. But I mean, especially if the top is looking like this, I'm sure that they'd also try to pull another Manning and just be like, yeah, just go back to school, Arch. But I think that Drew Aller is the one to take the biggest step. He is also very similarly built. You look at his frame, 6'5", 235. He's solid mobility, makes the right decisions, and has gotten better every single year as a passer. And I can only see that continuing. I'm grateful he went back to college. He could have been in the equation for the number 1 or number 3 overall pick this past year. But I'm just grateful for the fact that he is becoming the most pro-ready version of himself. And so I'm going to take him as QB2. And number 3 for the Titans, this is a situation where I could see them having good flashes, good success, but still not putting it all together because they're still putting it together as a team. And remember, my board is not all inclusive of the players. Caleb Downs will be my number 1 or 2 player. Simply put, I think this guy, when I ended up studying him last year, because for some reason I forgot he was a freshman, I literally thought of him as the best player I've ever studied. Just going to put that out there. He very well might be above Lenoris Sellers. We might actually be able to use the G card for 2 players in this class. But the Tennessee Titans, I think Caleb Downs times Kevin Winston sounds pretty sexy for the long run. I think your tackle situation's remotely secured for the long haul. You could try to go Caden Proctor, but that money is going to be pretty hard to swallow if you end up trying to kick out Dan Moore too early. Edge rusher, I just don't think this is the top end edge class that we think it is. TJ Parker is awesome. Peter Woods is more of a defensive interior than anything. To be fair, Ruben Bain is a savage. Like, I've taken Ruben Bain to the Titans quite a few times. Kedrick Falk, got to give him a shout out. I don't know why these players are being listed at full-time edge. Like, these are kind of tweener defensive interior edge rush players for the time being, but Ruben Bain's the one I'm considering here. It's Ruben Bain, Caleb Downs. Can't go wrong with either of them. However, with Femi Oladejo on the squad, I love the direction you're going, but I still don't see an alpha pass rusher. I do see the future at safety for that matter, but I do think Ruben Bain is just incredible. And I wish they ended up still keeping the 2024 comparables, because it would have been really cool to see like a little bit more of the true pass rush win rate and all that stuff. But regardless, I mean, last year he was on a limited number of snaps because he ended up being banged up, but he still ended up having 4 sacks on the year. He's a really good player. I'm going to be taking Ruben Bain Jr. there to pair up with Femi Oladejo for the future. The New York Jets are sitting at pick 4, and this is between Caleb Downs and another QB. The blessing of this class is that you have the potential to have legitimately top-end QBs here at the top. Lenoris, I think already, he would have been my number 1 pick this year if he were able to declare. Drew Aller would have been a number 3 overall pick this past year. Now, we're getting to the territory where Garrett Nussmeier has a roller coaster of a time when it comes to whether he can actually play consistent football. His high-end play is incredible, but his low-end play is pretty garbage. But is that something that you're willing to take a risk on? I don't think it is. And then you got Cade Klubnik here. Cade Klubnik's pretty damn good. I will say for the Jets organization, there are more pieces to the puzzle than just the quarterback spot. I don't know how I feel about a project quarterback with a defensive head coach. That's just something I'm not 100% confident in. I'd rather try to take a shot on John Mateer in the next round, which this is only a 1-round mock. Don't get ahead of yourself, but John Mateer may be late first if we included trades, rather than going after a quarterback here. Go after Caleb Downs and kind of do similar to what the Giants did, where if the value wasn't there specifically for them, they ended up going best player available and then ended up getting their quarterback later on. Now for the Saints, Daddy Nussmeier's on the squad. I have to go that route. I think Garrett Nussmeier needs to be in the best situation for him possible, but putting him with his dad kind of sounds like a good situation. So I am going to be going after Garrett Nussmeier here at number 5. So we have 3 quarterbacks going in the top 5. I do think that's very possible. The arm talent in this class is ludicrous. This past year was very underwhelming, but this next year, it's not just the excitement of new guys. There absolutely is a lot of love to be thrown around. And number 6 for the Carolina Panthers, this could be talking about replacing Bryce Young territory, but I'm going to say very similarly to the Jets, the value I don't think is worth it for the situation you guys are in. I would say continue to load up and continue to make your team better. Now, the question is, how do we do that? You already have pretty much a completed receiver core. Jordan Tyson would be very intriguing here, someone who I haven't given enough respect in my tenure so far of being able to show you guys what's up. Also, some of these are not up to date in terms of the school. Kevin Concepcion is over at, I believe, Texas A&M. And I think Eric Singleton transferred as well. So keep that in mind. These are not fully up to date for the schools, but there's a lot of very good, fun receivers in this class. I doubt the Panthers go back-to-back first with it, though. Quarterback, again, I'm having Arch Manning return in this for those of y'all who did not enjoy the first part of the show. I can't force a QB here. I can't. It's just bad roster building, and I'd prefer for us not to do that. Running back's way too high. The offensive tackle situation, you just picked up the 5th year on Ikem Ekwonu. I don't think you guys are going to be getting rid of Ikem Ekwonu, so I would just count out that situation right there. It would have been a dream to have Caleb Downs here, but instead I shot myself in the foot for that. I would say, though, defensive interior is not a bad idea. And I love the idea of Caleb Banks going on this squad and wrecking havoc from the interior. If I'm not mistaken, you guys got Cameron Jackson in the 5th round. Please feel free to correct me on that. I do believe that's the case, but I might be incorrect. I know he went in the 5th round, but Caleb Banks pairs up with the meat of Cameron Jackson. You also talk about Brown as well. I think this is a great move. Tershawn Wharton, and then is just a lot of firepower and no more excuses, which technically there's not that many excuses right now. If somehow, some way the Panthers end up at 6, which I don't think they do, then you end up replacing if a quarterback is here, then you end up replacing your quarterback there in Bryce Young. At number 7 for the Vegas Raiders, another situation I could barely see possible of happening. I don't understand how this could be the case, but receiving core looks pretty damn good. Offensive line looking like it has a real identity there. So I'm not 100% sure what would cause this. Obviously, Ashton Genty in the mix. Like, I don't understand what would cause this. Maybe you can get a deep threat, but even then, I would say that there's some good options in the mid-tier rounds at the moment. So the area where I'm trying to look at the most is an actual pure full-time edge 2. Like, that's the area where I think we can get the most bang for our buck. On top of that, we could talk about corner here. Avian Terrell is very fun. Malik Muhammad is really good. Mansour Delane, he's now at LSU. I really have some faith in him. And it's funny because I didn't originally. Davison Igbinosun, you guys see the little star there. It's someone who is bound to drop. Same thing with Xavier Nwankpa, Jaden Roberts. Those are my initial grades from last year that were not updated because I was focused on the other class, but I still wanted to show you guys, hey, this is what the actual all 22 grades that I have are, rather than me trying to fill in the gaps with some other players. But I just don't think the value is necessarily there. Avian Terrell is super duper fun, but I'm going to look into that edge core once again. I don't think this is an elite edge class, but I do see a lot of very, very good talent. And I think LT Overton absolutely is going to take a big step up. You don't even have competition really at that edge position at the moment. I mean, even the rotational edge rushers like Quay Robinson aren't really putting a lot of pressure at the moment. So I think LT Overton's going to have a big step up this year. I don't know why Peter Woods is listed as an edge rusher. He's a defensive interior. It's kind of bothering me, but it's TJ Parker and LT Overton. I think LT Overton has shown enough to me to show that he can vault himself up into this legit top 10 potential. And he's super fun for those of y'all who did not get to study him last year. He just didn't put together the full array of moves and stuff, but I really do think he could end up taking another step toward being a first rounder in this year's class. And number 8 for the Colts, this absolutely is now where we're going to start guessing or going for that Cade Klubnik territory. Ideally, I'd trade back, but with the Panthers, there's still some hope for Bryce. At number 8 for the Colts, there's almost no hope at the moment for what you guys have, right? Anthony Richardson, no hope. And again, Arch Manning, we are not considering him coming out in this. I know I'm already doing that, but I do want my first mock draft to be semi-representative of what I think could happen. And I'm looking at Cade Klubnik here, and you're looking at what the Colts have valued in terms of what they brought on recently. They value mobility. They value maybe not the biggest arm strength, but just game managing ability. And I think that's what Cade Klubnik brings. I don't think that there's another player that remotely impacts the Colts at that same level. And again, I was talking about this for the Jets. I talked about it for the Panthers. When we start getting further and further, it starts becoming more palatable to go after a quarterback that I think would be around that 15 to 20 range. Now we're going to be looking at John Mateer for the next stage of quarterbacks. I don't really think that we need to be able to force going after one here at this point. Outside of for the Colts now, it is more palatable. We're going to go Cade Klubnik. It fits the exact profile of the quarterback that they normally go after, which is mobile, game manager. But Cade Klubnik has a little bit more juice in the arm than what they have currently. At number 9 for the Dallas Cowboys, it's going to be hard to understand how they end up being at number 9, but again, there's a legitimate possibility. This is where I could see the first cornerback come off the board. And I know they got Savone Revel in the 3rd round. I thought that's excellent value. But Deron Bland coming up for a contract. On top of that, Trevon Diggs has not been reliably healthy. He could be off the team. So I'm going to be looking into this corner core. And again, there are a lot of very, very good options. You cannot really go wrong. And Jermod McCoy, I just don't think is going to test very well. He's someone who I like a lot, but he's a big physical corner. Avion Terrell could be something that's really special. Malik Muhammad is a very good cornerback. Like, when I was watching Jahdae Barron, I did not know who number 5 was, and I noted down that I thought number 5 was better than Barron. Of course, I ended up seeing it out of the corner of my eye. TBD if that's actually going to be the case. You guys know how much I love corners, so I'm going to be very opinionated. I think Malik Muhammad will be my selection here for the Dallas Cowboys. 6 foot 190. I just didn't really think Avian Terrell's build is going to, mirror what you guys are looking for in the boundary corner position. And now you have two young corners in Revel and Muhammad, along with Bland as well, that could end up having a lot of success. At number 10 for the Cleveland Browns, this is via that Jacksonville trade. So the Browns end up still getting their two targets here. And I honestly want to load up on the edge core because this seems fantastic. However, Caden Proctor's here. And I think the value of offensive line is more than pretty much anything that could affect the Browns at this moment. You got some really good players here. I really love Fano. He's a right tackle, though. I feel like I really want to address a true native left tackle here. And Proctor has the mobility to make up for his mistakes. He has the strength to be able to throw defenders off. And I love the pure untapped potential this guy has to be maybe even more than a top 10 pick. Could end up sneaking up as high as into the top 5. But for this situation, I mean, we weren't going to pass on quarterback here, and none of these teams are legitimately looking for that left tackle. Maybe the Raiders could try to discuss it, but you really are starting to look at the first tackle coming off the board at pick 10. At number 11 for the Seattle Seahawks, you guys had a very good draft. I love the vision for your team going forward. However, I still think right tackle could be in the mix. I mean, if you're sitting here at number 11, something has to go wrong, whether that would be Sam Darnold or not. If Sam Darnold goes wrong, I would not advise going after a quarterback here. Again, Arch Manning is going to be considered as returning in this. I know, boring me, but I do want to, at least for the first episode of doing this, try to be a little bit more realistic in terms of what the expectation is for Arch. Now, you could talk about some running back options here. I don't think the Seahawks need to do that. They sniped Damian Martinez in the 7th, for Christ's sake, right? Like, you guys know what you're doing. Boundary corner is not an awful move. I think someone like Jeremiah McCoy bringing the physicality on the boundary would be great. Avian Terrell would be very similar to Devin Witherspoon in terms of the physicality at a smaller package. And honestly, I don't mind that for the boundary. I don't mind that at all. Good to see Jake Slaughter listed so high. I thought I was going to look like a nut job, but apparently not. He's number 16 on my board, number 15 on the initial board. And again, all of this is very subject to change. That's why we're scrolling down so far to show you guys all the names of the players. And again, players like David Bailey, there's quite a few of them that have transferred. I think D'Angelo Pons is on Washington. If that's the case, I think he is. Then their corner core, I also actually need to update Tacario Davis on my board back to Washington. It would be Tacario Davis, Ephesians Prysock, and D'Angelo Pons. If they did that, which again, I don't know if they exactly did, that would be a ludicrous corner core. So feel free to let me know about that. But a lot of good options you can go with for the Seahawks here. I'm actually going to end up going after Spencer Fano here, who is one of the best offensive tackles in the entire country and a pure right tackle. I just don't trust the future of Abe Lucas. The contract will be coming up. You'll have to pay him. And this is a way to be able to ensure your future at a lower cost while also still being able to get an upgrade, which I like quite a bit. And number 12 for the New England Patriots. You guys, I highly doubt are at number 12. I think you guys can make a legitimate run. It's crazy to say that. It's ballsy to say that, I should say. Will Campbell grew on me every single day that he was post-pick. And I'm like, I got to say, I really, really like him. However, I would also like to put out there that you guys killed the draft. So, like, the next thing that I'm looking at for the Patriots, like, edge, no. Defensive interior, no. Corner, no. Safety, no. Like, the next position I'm looking at is wide receiver. And Jordan Tyson is, he is a fun receiver. Like 6'1", 200, young. He is a very good receiver. Kevin Concepcion, very good receiver. Denzel Boston, if I'm not mistaken, he has lineage. He has NFL lineage as well. But he was somebody who was very, very reliable for Washington. It's hard to say which one that you'd necessarily go with. There are a lot of very good options. I mean, hell, we're down here talking about Evan Stewart, Aaron Anderson. Aaron Anderson is someone who I really like. J. Michael Sturtevant, I know he ended up transferring, forgetting to which school, but he's part of a good group as well. Jaden Greathouse was dominant during the playoff. So like really good options down the board. However, if we're going to go with one at the top, I want to go back to Arizona State and rewrite that reputation with Jordan Tyson, the dynamic receiver. At number 13 for the Los Angeles Rams, this is with the Atlanta pick. So let's see where PFF suggests LA is going to be. At 26, I still think Stafford's going to be trying to make a push. I don't think they're going to be giving up just yet. So that's a really good spot to be in. I still think a physical corner, a Jalen Ramsey kind of corner, might be what the Rams should be looking at. And I'm looking at Jermon McCoy, and even though I think he could end up trying to slip a little bit more, I'm just worried that like pick 18, I'm going to be looking at pretty heavily. Pick 15 as well with Jalen Ramsey's future in question. I'm going to go after Jermon McCoy here to solidify the boundary for the Rams, which I highly doubt the Falcons, if they end up doing everything right, they had an A+ draft. It would be very hard to see them having that low of a pick. But somebody has to fill in these lower spots, and including one of them is my Steelers here at 14. If we're sitting here at 14, I assume Aaron Rodgers came in, and then it's like, it is what it is. We could try to go Sam Levitt. I think Sam Levitt has a long way to go. He is a fun quarterback. He could end up making up that distance, but John Mateer, I have more faith in. Miller Moss, I would say, is like an early day 3 quarterback, kind of a good competitive guy for Will Howard. But I mean, I just would rather stay with Will Howard at this point and continue going best player available. And looking at the options for that, Avion Terrell to be a boundary corner. We did not address corner like really at all in this draft. It is very scary because we need legitimate corner play. Like we need corner help. And luckily, this class is actually a very good one. Mansour Delane has a lot of free safety experience. I could totally see him fitting in. But I'm actually going to go and take the shot on corner here with Avion Terrell, who has the lineage to AJ Terrell, and he is a very good player. Again, Mansour Delane is hard to say no to. I mean, he's going to LSU. I think he's going to take a massive step up. Like, he has a much better frame than Avion Terrell with an additional 2 inches and an additional 10 pounds on him. However, I do think Mansour Delane was a little bit underwhelming at Virginia Tech. If you guys look back at my corner video, he was someone who I didn't fully believe in. So I do have my concern. Ooh, hold up. I love DJ McKinney. DJ McKinney's my guy. He's 6'2", 190. I'm taking him for my Steelers, man. DJ McKinney, I mean, you see him on my board. He's somebody who I had like literally listed. This is not someone who I suggested to fall. So, without injury or anything, he is my number 4 player in the class. He is dynamic. He floats. Like, he's someone who will teleport. He is that athletic, and he's physical. I think this guy's in for a massive season. At number 15 for the Dolphins, we're back to talking about corners again. I don't think this is out of the equation for the Dolphins, who did not really elect to address the corner situation, which I think is pretty dire. You could look at safety as well, just so you guys get kind of familiar with some of the names. Dylan Thieneman, he is a fun player, very fun player. Good safeties. Bud Clark as well. I'm surprised he didn't come out. Keon Saab has a lot of room to grow. Xavier Nwankpa preseason was a top 32 player for me in the class. Right now he's ranked number 6, but there's a lot of players that need to be ranked, and he is someone who will continue to fall because this is, again, coming into 2024 season. I'm still just putting it up there so you guys see something that is at least, digestible. But Avion Terrell doesn't really fit the identity of what the Dolphins are doing. But when you look at, I'm trying to think back, like Nate Wiggins, right? This is very similar to a Baltimore secondary, Baltimore defense. Avion Terrell basically will be a little bit shorter variation of that. And I really like the ceiling for him. He's someone who is very physical. He was very locked down, has a lot of experience already. I'm going to go after the kid. So at number 16 for the Chicago Bears, good spot to be in right here. I still think you guys are going to do better than this. There are some teams that are ranked higher that I have a little less faith in. However, Jeremiah Love is not someone you should be like forgetting about. This is very possible for him. Jonah Coleman, someone who I have a lot of love for. Seen a lot of love for Darius Taylor recently as well. Some very solid backs in this class. Not elite, but very solid. The one area I thought the Bears really failed to address properly was edge, though. I love Kyle Monungai. I still think that you guys actually have a pretty solid running back core. I'm going to go TJ Parker here, who is a phenomenal, young, powerful edge rusher. Again, 12 sacks last year. Could go much higher than this, but we're going to get Dennis Allen, his edge rusher that he wants. At number 17, for the Arizona Cardinals, you guys had a killer draft. Walter Nolan, Will Johnson. I mean, those two alone are just creme de la creme. But if you're sitting here at number 17, there's some discussions that need to be had. You could continue to bolster the defensive interior here with Peter Woods. Again, don't know why he's listed as an edge. I know he's taking some edge reps, but we all kind of know it's like a beard on a guy with a triple chin. It's not fooling anybody. All right. Like you're an NFL defensive interior. All right. So, Mikhail Kamara is a very fun one, but I still think your edge core is pretty well addressed. Your defensive line core pretty well addressed for the short run at the very minimum. Corner core, I still have a lot of faith in it, especially Will Johnson. So the area that I think needs the most work is actually the offensive line. And Francis Mauigoa is the next guy on my list for the offensive tackles. He does have some issues when it comes to anchor, and that's why I think he gave up some pressures this past year. But he has a lot of experience. He's young and he's very mobile. And I think he'd be a good fit for the Cardinals when you look at the mobility that Paris Johnson brought to the NFL. I think he'd be a very good fit. So we're going to be going after Francis Mauigoa at 17. And again, I'm excited to start learning about arm length and stuff, but 6'6", 315 is ideal. And number 18 for the Minnesota Vikings, it would be interesting to see you guys take a step down, but of course, with a rookie quarterback, that is bound to happen, and that's okay. I think that the areas of improvement would be a running back and a boundary cornerback, right? You addressed offensive line, and you did it very well. Now, looking at the cornerbacks available, I'm looking pretty hard at Mansour Delane right here, who I think is going to take a massive step up at LSU. If you're looking at the running back room, it's hard to say no to Jeremiah Love, but Jeremiah Love had games where he ended up having like 2 yards, if not less, per carry, and I'm afraid of someone who has those big wins and then big losses for games. And that might not be worth a legitimate one at number 18, at least, maybe a late one. I'm looking at Mansour Delane here, and I'm getting excited. I want to test out the kid from LSU. Again, not Virginia Tech. That's where he transferred from. He transferred to LSU. And number 19 for the Denver Broncos. And you guys ended up doing a lot of very good moves this past draft. Some of them I was not a fan of, but I still thought in totality, like, you might have had one of the lower drafts for me, but you still ended up having a good draft, right? That's the crazy part that we're in right now. And, you guys did a great job for that. I will say I'm looking at Peter Woods right now and getting this interior pressure with the ability to kind of use him as a better version of Savion Jones. That gets me excited. That does. I mean, I think that this is a too good to pass on value. So we're going to be taking Peter Woods out of Clemson. At number 20 for the Houston Texans, you guys arguably had the best day 2 out of anybody in the entire class. Your day 2 might be the best day out of any team in the entire NFL. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. Again, Arch Manning is considered as returning into this. Please do not at me for that. But Jeremiah Love is the guy who I'm going to be thinking pretty hardly for the Texans because I just don't see the running back prowess for the long haul. And Jeremiah Love at this point is worth giving that shot because he's an instant upgrade and he still does have those high level plays that are just jaw dropping. So we're going to be going Jeremiah Love there out of Notre Dame. At number 20 for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, Keldrick Falk is fun. I don't know if the Packers are going to go that route, but you went wide receiver for the first time in the first round since 2002. That is a great place to be. So, offensive line-wise, I think you guys are going to be perfectly fine. That's why you drafted one in Anthony Belton in round number 2. I think you're going to be cooking there. Quarterback, you're chilling. Wide receiver, you should be chilling, at least for the first round aspect. Tight end, you're chilling. Running back, you could try to consider it, but I just don't think the Packers are the type of team to do something like that. Interior offensive line, you're loaded. Right now, we're back to corner. And looking at the cornerbacks available, Dalen Everett is right on my radar. He is physical, he is mean, and he is just damn good. The one thing I don't love about him is his ball skills, and he ended up still improving throughout the year and ended up going and actually getting an interception in the Texas game. So I think Dalen Everett is fantastic. I don't know why people don't like him, but he's just the definition of consistency. He's a damn good corner, and I'm going to put my flag on him for being a potential first round pick. And number 22 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, this is going to be a successful spot for you based on where you guys are at. I think you need to look at edge pretty heavily. And the problem is that you're getting very similar to, Keldrick Falk is just such a unique frame. I don't know what team, maybe outside of Washington and Cincy, maybe the Rams, that I would trust to utilize Keldrick Falk. Tyreek Sapp's the next guy I'm looking at, and he's still just like an absolute freak. But the thing is, he is so similar body size to David Walker that I kind of start thinking about it as a legitimate option. You got on the opposite side, Suntrain Perkins, who I think is 225. He's 210. Oh, shit. I didn't even think about that. But certainly somebody in a very unique role, if he puts on some weight, could be a day 3 steal. Mateo Uiagalelei, also a very solid player. My only concern is that on 309 pass rushing snaps, he had 18 hurries. And I think pressure-wise, what is that, 23? That's a sub 10% pressure rate. Not a fan of that, personally. Not a huge fan. So, but he is certainly someone you could toss into the mix. Denis Dennis Sutton's another one who's a really fun build. But I actually like the idea of going Tyreek Sapp and continuing to load up on Florida players and basically getting a better version of David Walker here. We're going to go Tyreek Sapp at 22. At 23 for the Los Angeles Chargers, you guys ended up doing a good job weaponizing certain positions, but I still think you could end up bolstering the interior of your defensive line. Let me see how the nose value is. Zane Durant's not a nose. I also don't think he's worth a first-round pick off the top of my head. Like, I remember grading him. I was not a huge fan. DeMonte Capart's the dream for y'all. I'm not going to take him in round 1. He did grade out very, very well for me, but he is someone who has probably the best bull rush that I've seen on a consistent basis, especially given the lack of production. But for you guys, firepower could absolutely be in the equation. Tight end wise, I know that you guys addressed it early enough to where I'm like hesitant, but Stowers is super solid. You got Luke Hodge here, who I have a lot of love for. And then Lawson Lucky is someone who I have a lot of faith in. This guy is a very dynamic weapon. And so I'm debating going after one here. Lawson Lucky is the one who comes to mind. Luke Hodge ended up transferring to Ole Miss, and he's a very good player. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a very good player. And I'm starting to think about Lawson Lucky here. He's going to be that guy who's the big, big riser out of the tight ends because he was in the shadow of Oscar Delp, but Oscar Delp ended up going into the shadow of Lawson Lucky as the season went on. No one expected that. He's 6'4", 240, so it's going to be a unique build, but it's one that I'm willing to take a shot on. We're going to be going after Lawson Lucky there in round number 1 for the Chargers. At number 24 for the Washington Commanders, I was talking about this a little bit ago. I'm going to go for Keldrick Falk here. One of the positions the Commanders did not go after is edge in the draft, which is mind-blowing. But I also think that Dan Quinn understands his strengths and weaknesses, and he knows how to maximize edge value. That being said, when you have a freak like Keldrick Falk, who's 6'6", 288 pounds, he needs someone with a vision. And I think that's exactly what Dan Quinn is there for. So we're going to be going Keldrick Falk there at number 24. Number 25 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Do we just get another linebacker? They drafted 2 in the past draft. I'm like, you might as well just go for a 3rd. But I think an area that the Bengals could absolutely improve in is in their secondary. So I'm looking right now at that corner and safety position. And Dylan Thieneman is someone who I think deserves the love here. He did have a little bit of a down year last year. However, I honestly think with Al Golden and the way he utilizes safety play, I think he's going to be very enamored with the potential of Dylan Thieneman. So I'm trying to say it as smoothly as possible. Thieneman. But he's 6 foot, 210, young, dynamic, someone who a lot of people have as an early to mid day 1 player. At 26 for the Los Angeles Rams, we already ended up addressing corner with our physically built Jermod McCoy, and that's a great spot to be in. This is where we're going to go into that tier 2 of quarterbacks, where I would say if you're talking to Washington, maybe try to move up with them. If you're like the New York Jets or the Carolina Panthers. If you're talking to the Bengals, move up with them. Like, this is where the range for Sam Levitt and John Mateer is going to be. But Sam Levitt has a lot of more room to grow, in my opinion, than John Mateer. John Mateer is going to a system that he's going to have a better offensive line. They're more used to allowing a quarter. You saw what happened when Cam Ward left Washington State. Cam Ward went from like a late third, early fourth round pick all the way up to the number one. I don't think we're going to see that level of rise because I don't think Oklahoma is that competitive. But with John Mateer, I could see him being able to reach into this late first territory. He is someone who's a jaw-dropping athlete, and he has some weird wonky mechanics, but if there's anybody who's going to be able to make it work, this is where, hey, since we have 2 first-round picks, we're going to take the guy with the most upside. We also got an instant impact player, and so do your thing at Matt Stafford. At number 27 for the Detroit Lions, Anthony Hill is kind of calling my name here. You guys did end up making some very aggressive moves. Another team that I would be calling to try to move up with since they ended up trading so many third-round picks. It's a good spot to try to do that. That being said, I still think maybe some edge positions should be looked at. Obviously, the first round, you guys ended up going after some beef on the interior. Second round, you got some beef on the offensive line. So I'm still going to be looking into that edge core. And edge core wise, Denis Dennis Sutton's right up your alley. He's used to being in the cold weather. He is someone who is very raw, but he's built to be able to be a true success in the NFL. Mikhail Kamara is a really fun one. Again, want to toss out Mateo Uyunglele as well. I'm going to go Denis Dennis Sutton at number 27. Number 28 for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know if you guys are going to bounce back like this. I did not think you had that draft level to where you will be in this level of contention, but I digress. You ended up paying your tight end, which is great. Good to see Kittle getting the love that he deserves. And so I'm looking at maybe where you could look at Anthony Hill. Not a bad spot. But the area that I think I'm going to address is the area you didn't address in the draft, and that's going to be offensive line. And I'm hoping he is on here. I'm going to be going after right now my number 2 player in the entire class, Wendell Moe Jr. This guy is a savage. He transferred to Tennessee from Arizona. He is 6'2", 340 pounds. He is pretty much a better version of Tyler Booker, in my opinion. Well, he's the Samoan version of Tyler Booker, and I am calling that in all day. At number 29 for Kansas City, you guys also had a really solid draft. Got your offensive line in the future. You got another firepower weapon in the 4th round of all things in Jalen Royals. You guys are cooking with Crisco. However, I still think the tight end spot needs to be solidified for the long haul. I'm going to be looking at Luke Hodge here out of Ole Miss, formerly Arkansas, someone who did not get remotely enough opportunity there, but that's also because Arkansas didn't allow for very much opportunity. At number 30 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Luke Hodge would have been probably my dream pick for Philly at this point, but let's look at some other spots here. Boundary corner absolutely could be looked at, but I think that you guys solved it with Mac McWilliams. I love Mac. You guys know me. He was a top 50 player on my board, and so the next area of contention could be that true edge rushing position. And we talked about some guys here, but the problem is I do think it's kind of dropped off, except Gabe Jacost. This guy is actually really good. He just doesn't really fit the way I'd want him to. So I'm not going to force a player to the Eagles that I don't think is going to be really worth it. Let's look at some potential other options, one of which is going to be that third wide receiver. You got guys like Carnell Tate who are slipping, but Carnell has had some drop issues. I could see that happening. Like, there are some really good players here, Caden Green on the offensive line side, but you guys ended up getting some really good projects that I think they're going to turn into something amazing. So, I mean, looking at the options here, this would be another spot where, if a team is trying to call up saying, hey, the Jets are saying, yo, we really, really want Sam Levitt, that's a really good spot to do it. But, I mean, it's hard to say a position the Eagles are that desperate in. I mean, safety, you got Makuba. So, I mean, you can go Michael Toff here and then try to, have that long-term fill. Tight end wise, it's a little dire. I know that Max Clare ended up transferring, I believe, to Ohio State. So this guy could end up being a massive riser. So watch out for him at the end of round 1. But I just don't really think there's a great option here for Philly. So the one area I could see them trying to target is that wide receiver core, because that wide receiver 3 spot is going to be vacant. And you got Casey Concepcion. That honestly doesn't make me feel too shabby about replacing the slot position. Or, I mean, again, you don't have to put him in the slot. Eric Singleton is intriguing. He is very, very exciting. A lot of people love him. But I'm going to look at Denzel Boston here. 6'4, 210, continue to add size. This is another number one that you can add to your receiving core. We're going to call it a day. Baltimore Ravens sitting there at number 31. I was talking about this before, but this is a player who I love to death. That's Gabe Jacos. I don't think I could take him here for the Ravens because you just took Mike Green. But to be fair, Gabe Jacos can also kick inside, and on like even fronts, I think he'd be more effective than Mike Green did. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. If you guys are sitting there at 31, you're doing something perfectly fine, which, you continue to do you at that point. I think I will be going after Gabe Jacos, who I think is being criminally underrated here. Again, 275 at 6'3", and he's someone with 8 sacks. And as a true freshman, he was getting reps. And I love the amount of experience he's going to bring. We're going to go after Gabe Jacos at Illinois. And at 32 for the Buffalo Bills, again, Arch Manning considered returning in this. Winning the Super Bowl, apparently. Good for y'all. Congrats. Um, I honestly think a deep threat is going to be exciting for this team. And, continuing to build upon that receiving core, even though you guys have a good one. I know that Bean ended up losing his marbles, but I think Nick Harbor is someone with Josh Allen's throw distance, 6'5", 235, you might run in the 4.2s. You have to give him a shot. So we're going to do that. Leave the exciting pick there at the end of round 1. That is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching, showing the love you always do. See you later. Peace.